just talked about the center position with Andrew Raymond, Chris Murray. And so next, going to the running back room situation, I think it's going to be the Eric Gray versus Kennedy Brooks battle is going to be interesting. I think, Kennedy Brooks was a little bit slower just in terms of from a rust perspective. Heard he's had a pretty good summer. I think DeMarco Murray has challenged him maybe in a different way than he's been challenged in the past. And how Cavontre Bradford kind of rolls into that, it's a different story. I mean, I think the thing that's very intriguing about Bradford is I think he brings a certain element to that running back room that they don't have. He's a speed burner. He is DeMarco Murray on his Instagram posted a photo of all of them at their house, doing a little in the summer, and he looks quicker. He looks much more stronger than the rest of the running backs in there. So he just looks a little bit different now. Whether he's able to that's to materialize on the field early on in the season remains to be seen. But he's a guy that looks the part. So really, it's kind of almost where do those three guys end in the pecking order, and how does that Marcus Major enter into that as that kind of unfolds throughout the fall. Wide receiver is another position, specifically when you talk about Theo Weiss. Played a lot last year. It's not quite lived up to the 5-star hype yet, but he played much better. Was more consistent. Was a bigger factor. Was tied with Marvin Mims in terms of receptions for the year. So how his battle with Mike Woods on that side, he's coming off an injury. Mike Woods is a little bit more battle tested, certainly not at Oklahoma, but through what he's done in Arkansas. So those are the three, real big position battles that I'm looking at on the offensive side of the ball. Defense, I think one of the things that was, we've said this, but to hear Alex Grinch say this, and this is not really a specific topic, but just thinking about this, he'd mentioned that he believes Oklahoma has about 14 guys on the defensive line that will be able to rotate in, 8 interior guys and 6 on the edge. So I think, certainly that could change. You could trim that down a little bit, but I think that's a group that is really, really strong, and I think certainly the best unit on the team. So there's not a lot of position battle questions there, but I think when you go to the linebacker position, David Agwebu and Deshaun White, those are, they kind of split time last year. Agwebu's a guy that's, he changed positions last year. He kind of accepted that in stride and played really well, especially over the last part of the year. But he's a guy that his athleticism is off the chart, so it's time for him to, kind of put it to work, on the field. When you look at the safety position, Pat Fields, versus Key Lawrence. Key Lawrence is a guy that came over from Tennessee, a big transfer. Athleticism is there. I think his challenge is really kind of bringing it every single day, being very, very strong from a consistency perspective. So Pat Fields is a multi-year starter. He's a guy that is trusted by Grinch. He's a guy that has played a lot. He was a team captain, so I know it's a big. If Key Lawrence is the guy, he's a big. He's going to be a big part of what Oklahoma is doing this year. And then so at the nickel position, I think it's one of the most intriguing positions for me because Brendan Radley Hiles played a lot the last couple of years. He's at Washington now. Very much maligned kid in terms of what he did on the field, some in terms of the extracurricular stuff that he got involved with that was very costly. He was, but he was a guy that was in position, but he wasn't really a game changer. And one of the things that you look at that nickel position is somebody who's a game changer because Grinch asked that position to do a lot. Sometimes they'll cover a tight end, sometimes they'll be at the line of scrimmage blitzing, sometimes they'll be covering a wide out. So I think Jeremiah Cradell is probably the leader in the clubhouse in terms of, what he was able to do in the spring. I think, many people that look at him, it looks, because he didn't play in the spring game, so it didn't get a look at him in that spring game. So it's a little bit of a unfinished product, I think, from that perspective. But I think Another kid that will certainly factor into that is Billy Bowman, and then Justin Harrington is a guy that they've talked about at cornerback. It'll be interesting to see where he lands, because Alex Grinch had talked about him really in the same breath as a Trey Norwood, the way he did last year. And Trey Norwood came off of an ACL injury the year before, came back and was strong and could play a lot of different positions in the secondary. And I think Grinch kind of compared him. So if Harrington can give Oklahoma the kind of production that Trey Norwood gave, specifically in the latter half of the season last year, I think that's going to be a big benefit for the secondary this year.